Hey, it's Victor again. Have you ever felt stuck in your creativity? Like something is holding you back, but you cannot really name what it is. So in this video, I'm going to be talking about the common mistakes creatives make along their journey that no one has ever told you. So I want to make this video short and sweet because there's quite a few things that the internet is talking about regarding the creative process, about common mistakes. And I have gone through all of them. And I just want to share my insight with you so you can actually use it and you don't have to go through it. So, for example, waiting for inspiration or perfectionism. I have gone through all of them. Or working in isolation, design fixation, Einstellung effect, when you get stuck repeating the same familiar solution, skipping downtime, fearing audience engagement, fearing judgment, chasing output instead of the process, lacking self-management, neglecting physical health and environment, avoiding vulnerability and honesty. And let's tackle these because it can be narrowed down into just a couple of things. So as far as I can see, if you get comfortable with yourself and if you are creating from your heart with no external validation that you want to get, you get comfortable with what you're creating and you are getting rid of a lot of these things. You're gonna stop the perfectionism. Perfectionism usually occurs when you try to get something perfect before showing it to anyone. But as a sort of contrast, you cannot get anything perfect unless you get feedback on it from others, because how you are seeing it is completely different how the audience is going to perceive it. So if you show it to someone and you get feedback on it so you can actually work on it and perfect it, you have more chance to get it perfecter than it usually is. So one myth is busted. The whole thing kind of comes back to an experimental mindset. When you are able to be just experiment with whatever you are dedicated to, and then you are going to be forgiving to yourself and you are going to be able to work on your craft, to get into a flow state and to get the feedback and perfect it and correct your mechanism and your flow, to slow down and to create for just the sake of creating without any external validation, like how it's going to come across, how it's going to be when it's done, when others see it. That is when we create for the output. But the whole creative industry, especially in the last decade and so, it's been only result oriented. The only thing is that is important for everyone is to get it sold. It comes at a cost because not everyone, and actually very few people, can compartmentalize the creative process from the output and just create, just to focus on creation instead of focusing on the creation while the output, how they need to be doing something, is occupying the half of their brain. So once you get comfortable with this, you are going to be able to create from a more authentic point and you are going to be able to put your authentic self into your creation, which will make it unique. So that is actually a counterintuitive process, because the more you are trying to make it unique and try to appeal to some people or appeal to the industry and you try to tailor it so it recognizes it, the more you lose your creative touch and your honest self, and you're not going to be able to put that, your honest self, yourself, into the creation. So that becomes a cliche. And that is the same as honesty. And it is the same about vulnerability. You are only vulnerable if you are honest, emotionally. And vulnerability is what people connect to because they see your unique self. They see what you are below the surface. And that is appealing because very few people are able to put actually their whole self into their creation. Most of the art sells because of the past, of the history of the creator, not because of the actual art. Just think of some of the biggest paintings ever. So you actually need to know yourself. You need to know what you're good at. You need to know what you're not good at, or you don't want to be doing at all. And you need to collaborate with people. And that is the scariest jump sometimes, because some creators just like very focused on what they are doing and they are not able to show it to anyone. But that is when the journey begins. And that is what's going to make your creation sustainable in the long run. If you collaborate in whatever way, you need to be able to sustainably do what you want to be doing. You owe yourself a favor. You have to be selling what you're doing. At least you have to try to be selling it. Because otherwise, you're just going to be stressed and try to make it. And then you're going to be embodying the struggling artist archetype, who is trying to give too much, who is trying to get too much validation from the world, and they do this and that and this and that, and it is never enough. So it is best to focus on one craft, perfect it, and then do whatever you want with it. So you need to be knowing yourself, owning the reason of why you're creating, and be honest about it, and work together with others. With a combination of this, you're gonna get a huge adventure of your life regarding your creativity. You're going to be seeing creativity as a way to self-improve, because there is no real destination. When we arrive, it's not going to be fulfilling for a long run. The reward is always the person that we are becoming on the way of achieving what we want to be achieving. So that is worth to bear in mind. So however we're stopping our creative process or we're not putting things out, it is just because of the mental model we are having about the process or about the world, and it can be very fuzzy. I found the ACT model that I created very useful for this, to broaden awareness. A stands for Awaken. Awaken the awareness of mental sabotage that you're playing on yourself. Let that be negative emotions, negative thoughts, negative focus, negative meaning that you give to anything that you are doing. C stands for cultivating routines, which is very important to rewire. It is also pattern interrupt that I have been talking about. It is rewires whatever is going on in your emotions, in your head. And that's why I decided for myself that I'm not going to be thinking of things that I do not want. I will think of things that I do want in my life. And T stands for Tame. Taming mental and emotional turbulence through ownership. So you need to be owning, you need to be knowing yourself, you need to be owning your creation, and you need to have a mental model of the world. So before you judge your next idea, ask yourself, am I reacting to a fear in my head or to reality? Because it's quite different. Obviously, the creative process is a never-ending journey. It is a vehicle through which we can recreate ourselves and better ourselves to become who we want to become. Creativity is how we stop reacting to our lives and start designing it through radical ownership to create meaning for us and for those around us. Because creating makes us resourceful. If we know why we are creating, why that's important to us personally, and we own that, we have ownership over that, we stop chasing the fairy and we start creating meaning in our lives. So if you feel the spark, please subscribe. It would mean a lot, and be part of this tribe of amazing, successful creatives. See you later.